Okay, so let's get into this. We are doing a deep dive into a world that is, it's just living right on the razor's edge of identity, chemistry, and this raw manufactured desire.
Okay.
The source material we have is incredibly detailed, really intense. It just pulls you straight into the collapsing mind of this guy, Eric Ashworth. A man whose life, it literally exploded and left him with nothing.
Nothing but a really violent case of amnesia and, as he puts it, the faint smell of solvents.
Yeah?
And our mission today is, well, it's pretty complex. We're essentially dissecting an internal reconstruction of the self. Ashworth wakes up as a total blank slate. He has to piece together not just what happened to him, but who he was.
And who he was is the really terrifying part.
Exactly. The expert chemist behind this incredibly potent clandestine designer drug.
Right.
It has all these names, skin, fireflies.
Yeah.
So we're tracing this journey he takes, this terrifying path from being, what looks like a victim cuffed to a chair, to eventually embracing this monstrous role.
He calls himself the god and devil of manufactured desire.
He does. It's a journey straight into the abyss of self-knowledge, and it is not pretty.
No, it's not. And the sources we're pulling from, they just paint this picture of a world that is so dense with paranoia and at the same time, this incredible chemical precision.
It's not just a thriller.
No, it's a psychological puzzle box.
Yeah.
The author's earlier work, The Contortionist's Handbook, got some really heavy praise. It was compared to the energy of Irvine Welsh, the punch of Chuck Palahniuk.
And most importantly, the fractured timeline you see in films like Memento.
Exactly. And that sets a serious expectation for the mental landscape we're about to explore here. You're not dealing with a simple linear story.
No, you're dealing with a mental house of mirrors. It absolutely raises the bar. And the philosophical grounding for this whole thing is laid out really early on.
With the Jeffrey Sonnabend quote.
Yeah, from his text, Obliscence. It basically says that memory is just an elaborate human construction. A buffer, yeah, that we build to protect ourselves from the intolerable knowledge of the irreversible passage of time.
And for Eric Ashworth, his entire quest is a desperate, violent chemical attempt to rebuild that buffer against this unbearable void.
He's trying to fight the passage of time with a drug that literally promises eternal happiness. That desperation, that fight for what he calls more, it drives every single dangerous, self-destructive choice he makes.
So you have a man who needs to rebuild his buffer, but the only materials he has are, well, they're toxic.
They're the source of the problem in the first place.
This whole deep dive is based on the idea that Eric Ashworth isn't a victim of a crime. He's a victim of his own scientific ambition and his own mind's defense mechanism.
Exactly.
So let's start at ground zero. Ashworth's state when he wakes up. It's not just waking up confused, it's a violent, sensory overloaded awakening.
He's in a police holding cell or maybe an interrogation room. It's not clear.
Right. And he's cuffed to a chair, his skin is scorched, he's covered in bandages, and he is literally coughing up blood and blue sparks.
Glue sparks.
Yeah.
Which is just what a detail. His memory loss isn't just a mental thing. It's described as a physical rupture. He calls it a hole through the floor of my memory.
Yeah. He feels like minutes, months, and years have all been erased and just crumbled away at the same time.
It's designed to be immediately visceral for you, the reader, and for him, it's pure trauma. He's totally alone, stripped of all context. He's just focusing on these tiny physical actions, like just moving his thumb.
Just to prove he's still a person.
To confirm he's still an integrated being, yeah. And then adding to this profound disorientation, you get these two conflicting guides, the first two figures who give him these contradictory pieces of his predicament.
The first manufactured characters in his new blank reality.
Precisely.
And first up is Detective Anslinger, who is, he's basically engineered for sincerity.
The source goes into almost obsessive detail about him.
It does. He's the perfect good cop. He's wearing this deep blue beetle wing tailored suit.
Right.
And he smells specifically of breath mints and expensive aftershave. He has these big liquid brown eyes that just radiate this artificial trust.
So why that much detail on his appearance? What's the source implying there?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Is it that even his sincerity is just another manufactured chemical facade in Eric's damaged perception?
That's precisely the angle we have to take. In a world that's defined by manufactured chemicals and desire, Anslinger represents the manufactured trust of authority.
His suit is beetle wing tailored.
Yeah, which implies something iridescent, hard, maybe artificial. His breath mints and his cologne are just chemical masks. And Anslinger gives him the basic, terrifying facts that Eric has to internalize.
That he assaulted a state trooper.
He was found talking into a dead telephone at an abandoned gas station.
And he was only an hour's walk from a massive burn site.
The site of the fire that destroyed his lab and, though he doesn't know it yet, his girlfriend.
So Anslinger provides the facts of the crime, but the way he's packaged suggests that these facts might be, well, manipulative, or at least tainted by Eric's unreliable perception.
Exactly. And then the lawyer, Morrell, shows up.
The chaotic counterpoint.
Totally. Morrell speaks rapid fire. He's only focused on the legal fallout, not Eric's health. He's all panic and procedure.
And he reveals Eric had already been arraigned in a wheelchair, drooling.
Right. And Morrell's revelations are just explosive. Bail was set at $50,000 for assaulting that trooper. And the DA is aggressively trying to prove that Ashworth not only manufactured but overdosed on his own product.
A lethal cocktail of methamphetamine and LSD.
A chemical concoction so powerful it stopped his heart. It clocked him as dead for 8 seconds.
Wow. So he's got the threat of jail hanging over him from Morrell. He's got the physical evidence of his trauma from Anslinger. And in the middle of all this chaos, there's just one scrap of memory that's clinging on. Desiree. The lawyer's just frustrated, revealing that Eric just keeps repeating the phrase, Desiree, God damn you, Desiree.
Right.
This one word becomes his entire focus. It's the only tether he has to a life he can't remember.
And we really need to pause here and think about the complexity of that name. You have to hold on to that name because, as we're going to see, Desiree takes on 3 distinct but interwoven forms in this story.
The fragmented memory.
The literal woman he loved.
And the clandestine chemical formula for the drug itself.
Right. That one word holds the key to his identity, his crime, and his self-destruction.
It's the ultimate catalyst. So once he's released, Eric is put into the, quote, safety of the Hotel Firebird, room 621.
And based on the description, this place is less a hotel and more like a low-rent purgatory.
Oh, yeah. It's confinement disguised as freedom.
The source details its jail-like atmosphere so vividly, which reinforces that theme of physical entrapment. The hallways are only navigable by this perpetual unsettling blue glow.
Which is a great visual echo of the blue sparks he coughed up.
And the later blue fireflies drug, yeah. You've got a warden behind a chain link enclosure, a stained baseball bat that says 901 hanging near the entrance. The whole environment just screams temporary custody.
It's here that his paranoia just escalates. It goes from this internal dread to, well, external delusion. He meets Jack and this tall, silent guy they call Beanstalk.
And they are obsessed with bugs.
Which they believe are police surveillance or informants. They're these, true victims of the system, paranoid and chemically altered.
And their obsession with bugs isn't just talk, it's physically manifested on their bodies. Jack's shredded Virgin of Guadalupe tattoo is covered in sores.
And Beanstalk's torso glows through his skin like sunlight through paper.
So when Ashworth denies having a tapeworm, being wired, they give him his first and only direction. And this is such a crucial exchange. They tell him, speak to the token man, ask for Desiree.
So his only path to the truth is guided by 2 chemically fractured, paranoid men who think he's already compromised. And he follows the instruction.
Which says a lot about how desperate he is to anchor his memory, to rebuild that elaborate construction Sonneborn was talking about.
He trusts their madness over the manufactured sincerity of the police.
And that choice immediately yanks him out of the safe world of legal procedure and throws him right into the heart of the clandestine network he used to run. Jack and Beanstalk, as mad as they are, they hold the truth of the underworld.
And this is where Eric makes his first real, deliberate choice. He's following these cryptic, almost ritualistic instructions to find the key to Desiree.
This whole pursuit leads him to this highly unorthodox meeting place, a downtown theater.
XXX 24-hour live nude girls XXX. The setting is just perfect. A place dedicated to crude transactional desire is the exact place to find the truth about a drug designed to chemically manufacture love.
Right, and he finds the token man, who's described in this grotesque, specific detail, an obese ingot of flesh with shiny Elvis hair and a gold hubcap watch. He is pure kitchen excess.
He sells him 4 brass coins stamped XXX. Tokens that grant access to manufactured desire. And when Ashworth mentions Jack and Beanstalk, the token man finally reveals the next step.
Proving that connection to the Firebird's strange network.
The initial meeting with the woman called Desiree, and this is the second facet of the name, it's very clinical. It's brief.
She's a dealer, looks like a topless dancer, and she just slips him this small, glossy blue bindle through a slot.
With a single whispered instruction, swallow.
This small blue pill, which we soon learn is called Fireflies, is the catalyst for his chemical revelation, the return of his self-knowledge.
And what an aha moment it is.
The effect of the pill, later we learn its other names, are skin, cradle, derma, Pandora. It's instantaneous. It's overwhelming.
Memory starts streaming back. He feels a lover's hand, his blood rushes, and the ashes are, like, literally blown from his memory.
It's the complete counterpoint to the trauma he experienced waking up.
This isn't just a high, it's a cosmic experience. Total sensory integration. The description is, it's profound, almost spiritual. He sees the galaxy's stars close enough to cup in his hands, fireflies tethered by a rope of frozen lightning.
Time slows down to an ice whisper quiet, and he gets this staggering sense of being part of the universal chain of life.
He feels God staring back.
We have to really analyze what this drug is doing. He says he's afraid he'll die of beauty if he sees the entire chain at once. This drug, his life's work, it gives him this overwhelming sense of meaning and connection.
So if memory is a construction against time,
Then Fireflies is the ultimate architectural tool. It gives him the more he was always seeking.
but the more isn't just ecstasy, it's reversed regret. That's the key. He designed it to erase the terrible burden of the irreversible past. It forces the present to be perfect.
And who facilitates this perfect chemical moment? Soon after, he meets Desiree, the fortune teller, near a fountain.
And she seems to know him intimately. She confirms the reality of his buried life. She tells him facts he'd forgotten about his boyhood.
Like nearly dying under a lightning-struck tree, his constant burst, his superstitions about trees.
She uses these deep, forgotten fears to build a connection. She tells him, people tell their fortunes for me. I just listen, give them a few details, and they fill in the blank spots.
She functions exactly like the drug does.
Right. She provides just enough context for him to fill in the rest, to reconstruct the elaborate reality he's craving.
And what's fascinating is how quickly the pieces of his identity just snap back into place once the drug opens that door. In Chapter 10, Eric confirms his true identity and, more importantly, his motivation.
He says it outright. I'm a chemist.
And his goal wasn't just to make drugs for profit. It was to create a sustained, powerful moment of reversed regret, what he calls his more.
He defined it mathematically. He wanted to create a 72-hour moment where you feel true happiness or love.
He asks the question, if you could buy that 72-hour moment for the price of a tank of gas, would you?
He wasn't chasing a fleeting high. He was after sustained transcendence, achieved chemically. And that revelation sets the stage for the massive, ruthless organization that is now hunting him.
Because his ambition was extremely profitable, he synthesized that philosophical buffer Sonnabend wrote about, but in doing so, he attracted the kind of attention that treats human lives and scientific genius as pure, disposable capital.
That organization is known simply as the Chain.
It's massive, decentralized, and utterly ruthless, and we get introduced to its executive layer through a guy named Manhattan White.
White confirms that Eric, or Eric Ashworth, was the head of research and development in their pharmaceutical manufacturing and supply chain.
And White reports directly up to the final authority, Mr. Hoyle. Hoyle is the first and last link in the chain. He reports to no one.
White's visit to Eric is purely transactional, right? There's no sentimentality about their past relationship. He confirms Eric's old salary, his workaholic tendencies, but really, the visit is a demand for compensation.
He wants money to cover three things: the lost lab assets, the intellectual property,
The formulas.
the chemical formulas Eric designed specifically, and of course, inventory shrinkage.
But the most immediate threat isn't financial, it's legal and physical.
Right. White explicitly states that Eric's potential violation of the non-disclosure agreement, the NDA, is what really matters. That formula, the secret to more, is more valuable than any amount of money.
And to enforce that threat, White introduces his son, Toe Tag.
Toe Tag isn't just muscle. He's described in these mythological, almost terrifying terms. He's a legend who knows every major artery, nerve cluster, and pressure point on the human body.
His efficiency is just chilling. He can gut, cut, and pack a grown man into a garbage bag in under 40 minutes.
This extreme violence, it almost seems counterproductive. I mean, surely a clean disappearance is safer legally, right?
Well, you'd think so.
But that's why you have to see this as intimidation theater for Hoyle's organization. White is making it crystal clear that a breach of the NDA means Eric gets a severance package. The terror of Toe Tag keeps the entire structure silent and loyal.
And White really drives this point home with a gruesome, detailed lesson in loyalty enforcement. He described how Toe Tag handles the disposal of a failed crew member.
Wrapping the head in cheesecloth, the body in chicken wire, weighing the stomach down with rocks before dumping them in deep lakes.
The purpose being?
To be eaten by catfish the size of dogs.
That image it's unforgettable. It's designed to stick with you, and it certainly sticks with Eric.
It's an efficient disposal method, sure, but it's also designed to maximize the horror, to create a lasting legend of what happens when you cross Hoyle. Fear is the ultimate management tool in the chain.
Now, in this recovered chemist persona, Eric outlines the intricate, brilliant system he built for Hoyle's operation. The system designed for efficiency and safety against detection.
He streamlined the process by radically decentralizing the network.
And this is a really crucial technical detail for understanding why the chain was so successful and so hard to dismantle.
Right. Individual labs specialize in a single low-risk precursor. The example they give is one crew might only harvest red phosphorus.
And not just from anywhere, but specifically from matchbook strikers using these low-tech tools, a Dremel and denatured alcohol. For our audience who appreciates the technical side, can you explain the strategic genius of that small detail?
Absolutely. It exploits both chemical reality and a legal loophole. Red phosphorus is essential for making certain stimulants, but buying it in bulk or even having the equipment to make it is a huge legal red flag.
So by decentralizing,
Eric transforms a high-risk manufacturing process into a series of low-risk, small-scale harvesting operations. Scraping it from matchbooks is slow, yeah, but it avoids precursor procurement laws. It turns common household items into the feedstock for a massive illicit operation.
so no single lab holds enough evidence to implicate the entire chain.
Precisely. And by segmenting the labor, the crews are only linked by coyotes or runners. None of them know each other's location. The final high-risk synthesis only happens at a central location they call Oz.
Which minimizes damage and detection if one crew gets busted, and it drastically increased production. You promised Hoyle a triple quota.
It's corporate efficiency applied to clandestine chemistry. And Eric also explains the crucial role of branding, which Otto, his former friend, had influenced. They focused heavily on specific, targeted marketing.
They realized that desire is contextual.
Right, so for long-haul truckers, they needed these traditional functional names, Black Beauties, Red Devils, Yellow Jackets. But then they added their own, like Johnnies and Ronnies.
After porn stars, known for stamina.
And mechanical names like Diesels and Block 6s, names that just evoke endurance and function.
But for the suburban youth, the marketing was totally different.
Totally. It played on counterculture and escapism, linking the high to these abstract concepts of alien abduction and hallucination. So they sold drugs like abductors, strobes, probes, Roswells, yellow submarines, blue meanies.
This attention to branding proves he wasn't just a clandestine manufacturer.
No, he understood the psychology of manufactured desire. He was positioning his products, his more, as a consumer experience. It's like selling a lifestyle.
It's the ultimate commodification of meaning. He is selling the end of regret, and he's tailoring it to the consumer's demographic fears and fantasies.
So as Eric is trying to stabilize this fractured reality he's in, his paranoia just intensifies.
It starts out rational enough, right? I mean, for a chemist on the run, he's worried that Anslinger's men have planted mechanical bugs and tracking chips in his room at the Firebird.
Yeah, the source says he spends hours checking light bulbs, vents, picture frames for lenses and wires. He's looking for actual physical evidence of surveillance.
But this paranoia quickly spirals down into the truly absurd, the deeply strange, the Roach Autopsy Project.
The cockroach chop shop.
Yes. The narrator is collecting and dissecting dead cockroaches, pinning them, and then mapping their antenna polarity to find these phantom tracking devices.
It's such a fantastic moment of contradiction. You have this elite, highly technical chemist who is completely convinced that law enforcement is using biomechanical roaches for surveillance.
This fixation on insects becomes his entire bizarre world, a grotesque scientific project fueled by delusion.
And his lawyer, Morell, comes to visit and just completely dismisses it. The one part of Eric's theory that is, the most bizarrely creative.
Moreau just wants him to relocate, but Eric refuses.
Yeah.
He argues that they'll just follow him. He says they'll mark him like cats pissing on furniture.
He believes his location is irrelevant because the surveillance is pervasive. It's almost chemical, not purely physical.
And this is where the chemical world just crashes back into his delusion, and it turns the absurd into a moment of genius.
Right. At his remote, abandoned lab, Oz, he has this luminous revelation. He discovers the cockroaches infesting the place aren't surveillance drones, they're real bugs.
Attracted by food and waste. But Otto, his former friend and the branding expert, had been marking them with neon green, red, blue, and yellow spray paint.
Wait, Why would Otto be spray painting cockroaches?
Well, it was probably just a way for Otto to amuse himself, or maybe create a strange low-tech surveillance system of his own. A simple way to track movement patterns or contamination areas.
But for Eric, in his chemically heightened state, this simple act of marking them leads to this extraordinary breakthrough.
The source describes him turning on a UV light, and the glowing roaches scurrying across the floor create these patterns that reveal molecular structures.
This isn't just an accident, it's a profound chemical hallucination.
He watches the roaches converge on crumbs, and he notes how their collective movement seems to turn MDMA into LSD. And ultimately, this chaotic pattern shows him the required and obvious in hindsight molecular bond for skin.
The final missing piece of the drug's synthesis that his amnesia had blocked. The roach rave gives him the formula back.
This moment, which he witnesses in a gargantuan cockroach rave, is his second major breakthrough. It confirms his genius. He sketches the final structure on the back of Desiree's photograph.
Which just solidifies this idea that his entire intellectual life and his love are now completely bound up with the ghost of this woman he can barely remember.
The bugs have been talking to him, not for the police, but for his own subconscious, leading him back to his true identity as the chemist.
And the irony is just brutal. His greatest scientific achievement is delivered not by sterile lab equipment, but by neon-painted insects crawling across spilled refuse.
His mind is so deeply immersed in chemistry that the chaos of the world just resolves itself into molecular order for him.
This brings us to the core tragedy, where the lines between Desiree the drug, Desiree the woman, and Desiree the code just catastrophically blur.
Eric goes back to the strip club, and this time, a young dealer comes up to him selling a glossy blue pill. He calls it blue fireflies, or just fireflies.
And Eric immediately recognizes his own creation circulating on the street. It confirms the drug's widespread success and that the chain knows his formula. His creation has escaped him.
And even in the middle of all this, there's this element of dark legal theater. He runs into Anslinger again in a private booth.
And Anslinger reveals he knows Desiree is a code, but he's been using the name in court to frustrate the prosecution.
Which is a fascinating legal strategy. Morrell, Eric's lawyer, had successfully argued against the drug evidence by using pop culture. He asked the court if they were prepared to convict someone of making Peggy Sue or Lucy in the Sky.
Causing the courtroom to burst into hysterics, they're fighting the prosecution not on evidence, but on semantics, on conceptual grounds, turning a deadly drug into this abstract, almost charming concept.
It just underscores the fragility of the legal system when it's confronted by a chemist who names his product based on deep, personal, emotional trauma.
But the true emotional stakes are raised when the real Desiree, the girlfriend, shows up at his house. A house that feels empty and temporary, a place where he can't rebuild his life.
And Eric tries desperately to push her away. He's convinced he needs to protect her from Oil in the Chain, whose reach he now fully understands thanks to Manhattan White.
But the effort fails.
Yeah.
And the true horrific memory of their last interaction just snaps into focus, tearing away the last veil of innocence he had.
This is the emotional core of the trauma. It's the memory that broke him and made the amnesia necessary in the first place.
He remembers tying her up, taping her mouth shut, and letting drops of the pure liquid drug, his most concentrated creation, fall onto her skin.
The sensation of the drug entering her system through the dermis is why he named it Dermaphoria, or sometimes skin.
He recalls her physical response, arching her hips, her skin swollen, pink and feverish, hungry for the liquid tickle, and the terrible realization dawns on him. The name Desiree was born from the memory of her pain and his own lustful chemical descent.
It was a terrible, forced moment of chemical and physical control, an act that merged his science with his darkest desire.
But the personal betrayal runs even deeper. At the same time, the chain of betrayal is completed. Eric goes back to Oz, the only place he thought was secure.
And his money is gone. The $630,000 he had stacked in the floor safe.
And he realizes that Otto, his friend who loved the tables and innocently marked the roaches, stole all the money and set him up to take the fall for the organization.
That's the trigger for the final destructive act. Facing this utter ruin, the loss of the money, the betrayal, the horrific memory of what he did to the woman he loved, Eric chooses self-destruction over surrender.
He'd lent Desiree his car. She followed him to the lab.
In a panic, realizing the evidence and the trauma are inescapable, he dumps massive quantities of toluene and ether,
Yeah.
volatile, highly flammable solvents. He's creating a guaranteed inferno.
He takes the photograph of Desiree he kept in his pocket, lights the corner, and drops it to ignite the fumes. Then he swallows all the remaining pills he had, fireflies and black widows, and he runs.
The fire was his attempt to erase everything. The evidence, his creation, his past. He believed the void of amnesia would be better than the horrific truth.
But the memory reveals the ultimate tragedy. The fire also destroyed Desiree the woman. That self-inflicted chemical trauma and explosion is precisely where his memory went blank, starting the story right back over at the police station.
He was trying to eliminate the physical proof of his crime, but he only succeeded in creating the blue sparks and the scorched skin that served as the physical evidence of his trauma, forcing him to reconstruct the very memory he had tried so hard to annihilate.
So with his memory now semi-restored, Eric knows he needs to escape the Firebird before Hoyle's men arrive. They're hunting for him as the source of the lost formula and the stolen money.
And his unlikely only friends, Jack and Beanstalk, they facilitate the plan. They actually believe his paranoid story about the mechanical surveillance.
They're the only ones he trusts because their madness aligns with his reconstructed reality.
The escape is intricate, precise. It's designed to buy him time. They intentionally snap his key in the lock of room 621.
He exits via the third-floor fire exit, waiting until Hoyle's men, disguised as exterminators or rehab guests, focus on that locked room. The assumption will be a suicide or a disappearance,
buying him crucial time to make his final move.
Eric then embarks on this lonely, symbolic bus trip. He buys a ticket to Pure Blossom Highway, the specific location of the abandoned gas station and the dinosaur motel.
The only location Anslinger mentioned that Eric couldn't verify.
Right. And for the first time, his internal memory perfectly aligns with the external world. A detail outside his head finally matches a detail inside it. This is his final tether to reality.
And he also notes he has a fever and a severe infection from his burns. A physical price for his chemical crimes that he can no longer chemically erase.
He holes up in the motel, room 229, and prepares for the final confrontation. He has two critical calls to make, one to the law and one to the chain. This is his final, desperate gambit.
His call to Anslinger is a full confession and a warning.
He confesses to killing someone, Desiree, and he reveals the identities of Manhattan White and Toe Tag. Crucially, he urges the detective to bring significant backup, but to arrive stealthily, to catch the chain leaders in the act.
He's offering himself up as bait. His testimony is the final piece of the puzzle. He knows his confession will only be taken seriously if he can deliver the leaders.
Then, the definitive challenge to the chain, he calls Lou at Ford's bar and sends an immediate provocative message to Manhattan White.
I have Desiree and his money.
It's a definitive lie. It's designed to force White and Toe Tag to come directly to the Pure Blossom location, convinced Eric is holding the formula and the stolen money.
Otto's money, which White wants back.
This is the ultimate, desperate synthesis of his entire character arc. He forces his two worlds, the world of law and the world of the underground, to meet violently at the only confirmed physical location in his memory.
He's constructed a final, high-stakes scene of consequence.
Eric waits for those consequences. In room 229, silent helicopters arrive, pushing wind and sand. The storm clouds roll in.
And he embraces the horror. He knows that if his actions are real, they will have consequences. If they have consequences, then his memories and his tragic chemical love for Desiree were real.
The ambiguous void of amnesia has been replaced by the terrifying confirmed reality of the fire. He's just waiting for that inevitable clash between Anslinger's law enforcement and White and Toe Tag's brute force. He's seeking a consequence that validates his existence.
That storm is the physical manifestation of the chaos he's brought down upon himself.
And he welcomes it because it proves he is real.
Wow. What a spiral of self-destruction and chemical ambition. I mean, the protagonist spent his entire intellectual life trying to create more, this ultimate sustained moment of love and happiness.
But the life he built was a Mobius strip. Every attempt to find truth or love just led him right back to the original destructive act.
Precisely. The drug was designed to provide eternal love and reversed regret, but all it delivered was eternal loss and a manufactured reality.
The memory he sought to reconstruct was so horrifying that his mind blocked it violently, forcing him to live in this endless, meaningless present.
The very moment he tried to protect his lover
became the instant he destroyed her and himself, sacrificing her memory to save what he thought was his truth.
And the final judgment doesn't rest on legal guilt, but on psychological integrity. The ultimate question from this deep dive is really left with you, the listener. When Eric confesses and asks Anslinger if he believes him, Anslinger's reply is just the perfect summation of their twisted relationship.
I know you're crazy, Eric, but I also know you're most certainly no idiot.
What value does truth hold when the facts are so horrific that madness becomes a defense mechanism?
Eric's chemical genius allowed him to create the perfect illusion of happiness, but he could only validate that illusion by engineering his own catastrophic demise. The only enduring proof of his life is the death and destruction he caused.
So if memory, as Sana Ben suggests, is just an elaborate construction against time, the ultimate provocative thought is this. Eric Ashworth chose a constructed, horrific memory. The murder of Desiree, the fire, the betrayal over the easy void of amnesia. Was the unbearable truth of his crime, the knowledge that his life had consequences, still the more he was truly seeking all along? And if so, what does that say about the human need for consequence, even if that consequence is utter ruin?